And Jesus said, "Today you'll be with me in paradise." One of the criminals who were hanged sneered at him. "Are you not the Christ? Then save yourself and us." And the other replied reproachfully, "Have you absolutely no respect for God? You and I are both condemned, and justly so, for we are receiving what we have brought on ourselves by what we have done. But he has done nothing wrong." And he went on, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, "Yes, I say to you, this very day you will be with me in paradise." As we spend time at the foot of the cross, it may be helpful to ask ourselves the question, what do we imagine by paradise? There were two men either side of Jesus, each a criminal, justly condemned, paying for their crimes. It can be helpful to recognize each of these criminals in ourselves. For the first criminal, perhaps paradise was an opportunity to be rescued by some powerful, almighty God, someone who would leap down from the cross and enact a miraculous rescue. Such an event may not have changed him a great deal, but it would certainly have rescued him. That criminal exists in each of us, a desire, oftentimes when we pray to God, to be rescued. Understandably, there are things that come into our lives, whether by chance, caused by the carelessness of others, sometimes by our own actions, that we pray out to God to be rescued from, and we wait a miracle for God to step in and to turn things around. And when that God doesn't step in, we are often caused to question the meaning of our faith, the kind of God that we are called to trust in. The second criminal in us shows us a degree of humility and a recognition that we are accountable and responsible for our own lives, both on the small scale of our day-to-day activities, but also in the ways that we show up in institutions and organizations, in society and in cultures, that our actions have an impact on others, and that whether we recognize it or not, we are accountable, that we have a freedom to choose, and often we choose badly. This second criminal recognizes that Jesus, hanging between the two of them, is one who has committed no crime. He doesn't ask to be rescued. He asks to be remembered. This suggests that there's something in him that knows he has forgotten something, that he is perhaps disconnected from something deeply truthful, and he asks for Jesus' help to bring him back in, to help him reconnect, to know who he is. And Jesus tells him, "Yes, today you will be with me in paradise." And is it possible that paradise isn't something simply that we arrive at after we die, but that we can begin in some small, slow and painful way to recognize that we are growing into, even as we are dying in the midst of life circumstances and difficulties and the challenges that each of us faces. There's an unsettling line in the book of Hebrews which tells us that Jesus endured the cross because of the joy set before him. What is that joy, we might ask ourselves? Is it simply the fact that when all this is over, we'll be with God? Or is it possible that we can endure things as he did because of a joy that already exists in our presence? That paradise, or the kingdom of heaven, is already taking root, is already blossoming, is already growing in spite of the death and the devastation and the losses that we find ourselves living through. How do I imagine paradise? And is it possible by the grace of God to see it somehow in the joy set before me? I'd like to close by offering a poem by Mary Oliver. When death comes, like the hungry bear in autumn, when death comes and takes all the bright coins from his purse to buy me and snaps the purse shut, when death comes like the measle pox, when death comes like an iceberg between the shoulder blades, I want to step through the door, full of curiosity, wondering, what is it going to be like, that cottage of darkness? And therefore I look upon everything as a brotherhood and a sisterhood, and I look upon time as no more than an idea, and I consider eternity as another possibility. And I think of each life as a flower, as common as a field daisy and as singular, and each name a comfortable music in the mouth, tending, as all music does, toward silence, and each body a lion of courage and something precious to the earth. When it's over, I want to say, all my life I was a bride married to amazement. I was the bridegroom taking the world into my arms. When it's over, I don't want to wonder if I've made of my life something particular and real. I don't want to find myself sighing and frightened, or full of argument. I don't want to end up simply living and having visited this world.